Final walkthrough time. This project threw every challenge at us. Impossibly tight access, varying access points, and an extremely tall attic access area with push-out windows along the staircase. Now that it's done, let me show you how we made it all work. Welcome to the final day of our latest deck build. I just wanted to run through the entire build with you and show you some of the challenges we had, some of the unique features of this project, and some of the materials that we used along the way, because we do have a lot of people that ask a lot of questions. All right, so what we have here is a TimberTech AZEK deck. For all of the finish work, we have 2 different colors and 2 different widths of decking as well. So the main field color is called Coastline, and you'll see that light gray color throughout the project. Then the borders, now on this back deck, we did borders. On the side deck I'm gonna show you, we did not. We've been here for over 2 months building this project. We used a multi-width border, which is a wider border. It's 7 1/8 inches wide, and the standard boards are 5.5. Darker border color is called Dark Hickory. So regardless of if we did a border or not on the deck, we always trim all of the fascia boards and everything are all done in Dark Hickory. This was an existing platform. The stairs were configured a little bit differently on this deck than what we ended up with. So what we decided to do was build larger landing pads, because we had to come out to this point on the concrete. Behind this concrete, there's actually 2 to 3 feet of depth. So it doesn't look like it from everything, but everything kind of caves down and in after these edges are done. So we had to build up a 2x6 framed landing. All of the framing that we did on both decks are all aluminum by a company called Outdoor. This landing is out of Outdoor. Then the stairs that we built, the stairs, we actually used a product called Owens Corning. Now, Owens Corning is a structural composite with a fiberglass mesh in it. So we're using different types of materials on this deck depending on what we're doing with it. What's cool about the Owens Corning is we were able to make wider, deeper steps. So instead of just 2 deck boards wide, we actually had 2 deck boards plus a small board in the middle. So our stair depth is about 15 inches versus 11 inches. So it really kind of raked them out and made them go longer. And we added an extra rise in each rise so that all these stairs were easily attainable, easy to use. It's just smooth gliding up and down these stairs. As you can see, we have a black aluminum picket railing. It's called Textured Black. It's an aluminum picket railing by a company called Regal Ideas. We use them quite often in a lot of our builds. This happens to be a grabbable handrail for being able to come down the stairs. We did a little bit of both on this job. I'll explain to you why in a minute. You can see the width of these stairs is really nice, and the rise is really low. It's only about a 6-inch rise, 5 3/4. So it's really easy to work, really easy to use. You really don't need the rails to use the stairs. It just makes a really nice transition from A to B. As you come up onto the upper deck, we have that same pattern that you see down on the lower landings, where we have a multi-width border. We have a standard width 5.5 inch Coastline deck board. And all the framing is done in Outdoor aluminum. It's framed about every 12 to 14 inches on center, depending on where we're at on the deck. It's a 10-foot span. And this deck, I think we framed it in 2x8. We could have used 2x6 with this span, but the 2x8, it's a really firm, nice feel. And it's super flat. This deck is really flat. These deck boards, they don't do any of this kind of thing. It's just nice and straight, and that's why I like aluminum so much, because it just makes a really excellent base for your deck. So some of the challenges we had, we wanted to figure out how do we use the lengths to our advantage. Well, I don't know if you can tell or not, but the far section of the deck is 20 feet. Then the middle section is 16 feet. And then this section is also 16 feet. So to get these lengths to work, we actually did have to use a wider border in between the runs and on each end, or else these lengths wouldn't have worked. So I was really pushing the limit of the manufacturer as far as being able to make the boards a certain length. and being able to use those in the deck. Just for example, we could have ran a bunch of random pattern and scabbed everything together, but that usually doesn't look so hot. This is a much cleaner way to do things where you're breaking on an intentional break. It's better for the decking, better for the framing, and better all in all for everything if we build it like this. Another cool thing we did is we took all their post wraps down and then we wrapped them in dark hickory to match the borders that are on the deck and the fascia that's on the deck. There's a 6x6 underneath these. Again, this is a 7, they call it 7¼ I think it's around 7⅛ inches, but it gives us enough room to wrap the post. It's like a stagger joint. It's not a miter. If we tried to miter these, we wouldn't be able to, and we'd have a really hard time keeping all the miters tight. They do make column wraps that are paintable, but this you never have to paint. You can use the Cortex on it and hide all the fasteners. It looks pretty year after year. Never have to do anything to it. So one and done. And then along the way, just a really nice feel to this deck. It's really solid underfoot. Let's talk about the way we attach the decking to the frame. Outdoor does have a clip system. It's called a twist clip. So it twists into the frame and locks it together. And then about every 5 or so boards, you pin it down to the aluminum and then you just keep moving on. That's how the main deck is attached to the frame. But even though we do that, we still are pinning the ends of both ends of each deck, where we're actually using a Cortex driller, which is designed to go into aluminum, and we drill through the decking and into the aluminum, and then we use matching Cortex plugs to give it a seamless look. I mean, if you look hard enough, you can see the plugs. It's gotta be done occasionally so that we can keep these boards from moving back and forth. We have a minimal gap in between the decking. With AZEK, you don't have to have a whole lot of gap because you're more worried about contraction than you are about expansion. The boards can expand. They're gonna hit this expansion joint, they'll hit that, but they won't go any further than that. But it's more about in the cold weather when it shrinks. And that's why you wanna pin the ends so that you don't get things shifting and moving around. And then just more railing, again, just a really nice tight look. Same exact techniques used on this side as over there. A nice flow to the staircase, then this is pretty much a wrap. And then you see we have a little bit of skirting on the sides of the staircase. Now before they had this stone look, but it didn't really mesh well with the decking. So we felt this is a little bit cleaner look. We have a little bit of trim underneath, and then we have some stuff that we put in to keep the dirt from sloughing up underneath the deck. We just finished installing that. So all that's left now is just a little bit of landscaping. So we have all of our side fascias on, everything's Cortexed, and that's what I really like about this Cortex system is it's versatile. You can use it in different applications, and not only are you using it to pin the ends of your deck, but you're also using it to install all the fascia boards and keep them locked in and keep them hidden fastened. So this entire deck, there's no screws showing, period. So everything just has a hidden fastener to it. So it just looks really nice, and you don't have those face screws showing on any particular area. All right, so that's the back deck. Now for some of the more challenging sections of this project, we're gonna go to the side deck and I'm gonna show you guys that. All right, so the client had this space between the house and the shop, and he always wanted to have a nice place to barbecue. There's some really interesting access that we're gonna talk about over here. And he uses this shop quite often. There was an old deck and set of stairs, and it was a little bit of a challenge for him to get from the door to the door of the shop. In the interim, there's this nice area that we put a patio cover above so that this space can now be dry. He can set up his tables and barbecues and all that stuff over here. And now he has a place to barbecue and stay dry while he's cooking and doing different things of that activity. And then there's this nice dry area between the shop and the house. There's a dripping issue that's coming from the roof line of the shop. So we took the cover as close to the shop as we possibly could so that the drip line drops into the gutter, and then we ran the downspout over and down into some existing drainage over here. So once you come through there, here's the main access off of this door. So this was always the same. So this door accesses down and into the shop. So it's like a 180-degree double back area here. These access areas only used to have 3 rises instead of 4. But to kind of match the back deck, we added an extra rise in these 2 stairs to make it a really easy access and for him to be able to come down and just get into the shop without having steep stairs It's just a much better flow. Now these stairs are just normal width, but we use the same materials, aluminum framing for the decks and Owens Corning for the stairs. Then it's all trimmed out the same way. Again, more skirting. Now the skirting is actually, it's a 7 1/4 width board, but it's a thinner board. So it kind of resembles the multi-width board, except it allows us to give a little bit of a shadow line reveal when we're wrapping. So this is a 1 inch thick piece of material. This is a 3/4 inch thick piece of material. It's still Cortexable, so we can hide it still with plugs and stuff like that. And that's why I like using it, because it gives it a little bit of reveal, we'll call it. Instead of this being completely flush, which doesn't look so great, it sticks back just enough so I don't trip. So as you come up, there's more Regal Ideas railing everywhere you need it. Along here, up the new set of stairs, all the way around. Something we did differently is we increased the size of this area here. This deck used to stop here and come back around this post and then go this way. This used to be railed off here and railed off here. So he had to come down and either you could go up or you could go down and around. But I thought it'd be kind of cool if we opened the size of this deck up a little bit and then they had access going down this way as well. Again, we added an extra rise, so it's really easy to get in and out of. Now the client has an option of coming out the door and going that way, or he can come out and go into his shop, or when he needs that attic access. Now the attic access was added after the house was built, so a lot of this stuff was new. So again, we took the 6x6 posts and we wrapped them in dark hickory, and that's where things get interesting from here on up, okay? So this is all comfortable heights, easy to access, and really comfortable and great looking. Over here, this is where we have a standard height set of stairs going up to this mid landing, okay? Now the mid landing was, again, still there from original. Everything pretty much we've just ended up replacing, except we've changed it, made it with more modern materials, longer lasting, and a couple other features. This little tiny deck up here, it's aluminum, but we also added a bladder to it to keep the water off the wall, because there's a lot of moisture and weather that hits the wall. And actually when we took the old little landing down, there was problems with rot and decay up in the wall. So we have fixed that, and I'm gonna show you guys up here. So this is a standard height set of stairs. We're about 7 3/8, I think, on this rise. Now you'll notice these landings and stairs, the decks do not have any borders on these. They're so small, and this is more of a utility type of area. We didn't need to add all the fancy stuff to it, so it's just basically decking. This little deck also has a bladder on it to keep moisture off the wall, and the client just wanted to have a little extra space, maybe to park his lawnmower under once in a while or something like that, just to keep the weather off of it. So the gutter guys are coming in a couple weeks to put those in. This is where things get a little bit funky. For this particular section over here, we had to get creative. As we were rebuilding this landing, we came up with a couple issues. Now, the old staircase was super short and choppy. I didn't want to give them short runs on their stairs, but we have a window right here. That's a problem, because this window kicks out at the base. I didn't realize that at first, but when I looked inside, I saw a crank handle, which means I couldn't cover this up, even if I wanted to, because the client wanted the window to be able to still open up for venting purposes. So with that being said, we had to make this set of stairs over here a little bit steeper and a little bit shorter so that we could come in on this side of the window so this could still open up when he wanted it to. Now this is strictly for attic access, okay? They don't use it very often, but when they built the house, they realized, wow, what a waste of space if we can't use this for something up here. So they use it primarily for storage, Christmas decorations, and things like that. But we went ahead and trimmed the upper deck just like we trimmed out everything else. But because I wanted to keep the tread nosings as wide as possible, we framed and we trimmed out this set of the stairs a little bit differently than the rest of the deck. Because it's not seen, and because it's utility, and it's because it's just to access this one area, we made these rises a little taller, and then we tried to bring a nosing out like this so that we can make this stair depth as deep as possible. And then we have a 3/4 inch piece of, again, stair riser here. The decking actually goes out past the stair riser to bring it out as much as possible instead of us trimming it out like everything else, okay? So that was our answer to making this staircase work. I was forced into a certain parameter. I'm not crazy about it, but it is what it is, and we did what we had to do to make it work. This originally wasn't here. This was added after the fact, so we were stuck with a certain amount of parameters. Primarily this window was the main kicker, and the only thing we could have done a little bit different, maybe, would be to push that landing back up to the door, but it would have been an uncomfortable entry and exit then, so it's like you're juggling the balance. You're trying to find out, okay, what's gonna be the best answer for the client? We could have added one extra run into the rise of these stairs, but it would have had to go back that way more. And there was some wall damage, so we had a couple other things, and siding damage, so there was a couple other things we had to deal with in making these decisions. So these are a little taller rise and probably a standard run. Most of the other stairs that you've seen, I like to make them as wide as possible, so my stairs are usually 11.5 to 12 inches of a run, and I try to keep the rises as low as possible. That's how that turned out. Same railing, everything works. Now, the reason I don't have a grabbable handrail here, in my opinion, this is great. You can grab onto this and it feels good in the hand, but it doesn't have that little indentation. And that's because Regal only makes them in 6 foot and 8 foot lengths. And on this particular project, we have to have a continuous top rail, and it's over 8 feet long. That means I'd have to put a seam or a splice. I just am not crazy about splicing, because as you're running your hand down it, you always feel it. So they make a standard rail that is 12 feet that we can cut down to whatever length we need. And that's what I decided to use on this staircase, because it just feels better on the hand when you're using it. If we have to, we can always put a grabbable handrail on here, but my goal for this job was to keep this width as wide as possible. That's why there's only one set of railing going down the stairs. There's not another set of railing going here, and that's why we skirted off the side of this staircase to make it look like this, so that we didn't have to have another railing over here. There's no way you can possibly fall through the deck or get injured, and you still have a place to grab onto, and it's continuous as you go down the staircase. That about concludes the tour, except I just wanted to show you this as well. This is, again, some more Owens Corning that we tied into the staircase. Now, as we were building the staircase, we felt, hey, is this gonna be weak? Is it gonna flex? Is it gonna bounce? And as we started building this, and then we built this wall in between, this thing really solidified, and there's no bounce, there's no spongy feeling to it at all, which is wonderful because it's like 9 rises, right? So, but here's some Owens Corning that we ripped down, and we turned it into some 2x for the supports for that 1x7 or 1x8 that TimberTech makes, this AZEK. And then we just threw a little bit of dark hickory trim on here because we had a little bit of a jagged edge. Has a really nice clean look. It looks nice together. And again, even the parts underneath the deck that you see, everything's trimmed out. It looks really nice. As you walk by, it has a nice flow to it and visually appealing to the eye. So that's important to us. We even wrapped these bottom columns over here so that they all match the rest of the deck, and everything just looks really finished off. So that concludes this tour, guys. I hope you enjoyed the build along the way, our journey on this deck. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll see if I can do my best not to get back to you on those. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like this deck. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.